Dear listeners, I have so much to tell you, and I often don't know where to start. It seems the world doesn't want to admit that sometimes we make mistakes and that sometimes the wrong person gets punished for something they didn't do. Not all of us have been personally affected, but many of us have been impacted by this reality. And I feel like it's my responsibility to share these stories with you and to tell you what I've learned about wrongful convictions. Welcome to Wrongfully Yours. Today, I'm talking with an incredible group of students from Toronto Metropolitan University. They're the Pen for Justice. This student-led initiative is using the power of writing and advocacy to raise awareness about wrongful convictions and to push for meaningful justice reform. Through education and community engagement, they're proving that activism doesn't have to wait and that students can be powerful agents of change. Today, we'll talk to members from Pen for Justice and about what sparked their passion, the work they're doing on and off campus, and why elevating the voices of the wrongfully convicted is more urgent than ever. It's a conversation about purpose, advocacy, and the next generation of justice leaders.
Thank you for having us.
Hi.
So if you can just give me a quick introduction of who you are.
My name's Mia. I am the president of Pen for Justice, and I'm also going to be the director of Youth for Innocence Canada. This summer, hopefully, we'll officially expand as an organization. But yeah, right now I'm president of Pen for Justice, and thank you for having me on.
That's incredible. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
My name is Emily. I'm the vice president of Pen for Justice, Youth for Innocence. And yeah, I help with casework. I lead a current case that we're working on, and I, assist with outreach, and I help Mia with anything that she'd like me to help her with. And yeah, thank you for having us. It means a lot.
Amazing.
I'm Margaret. I'm the Vice President of Communications. So we all kind of do similar tasks. I also help with outreach. I'm also a case leader, but my main role is I'm the bridge of communication between Mia and then caseworkers. So I kind of help the operations of the group. So like setting meetings and distributing emails and all that sort of stuff.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. I'm Noella. I am the social media manager for Pen for Justice. I basically manage our Instagram. I help with graphic design, running marketing, and doing research for our Innocence File series that we do on our Instagram.
Excellent. So what brought you all to Pen for Justice? What led you to create this group?
So I've always been, in high school, I was really into politics. That's kind of where it started because my family in Latin America are very big in politics. And so, through kind of understanding where I come from, my family, where they come from, their beliefs, and their influence, I started learning a lot about political prisoners. And I was really interested in that, like the whole Peronista movement in Argentina, the mass incarceration of university students without trial or due process. And then my dad started introducing me to like movies like Judas and the Black Messiah, which like talk about Fred Hampton and like more specifically the Black Panthers in the United States in the 60s. And then I started like learning about Project COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program in the United States and how that targeted university students, and they were wrongfully incarcerating political activists. And then, I don't know, just like over time, also with my degree going into criminology, you just start learning about the criminal justice system and it's not just political activists that are being wrongfully incarcerated. It's also there's just a lot of innocent people and the prison systems don't work, and you kind of start learning about that, and then you go through like a rabbit hole. And I got really into Brian Stevenson's work, and yeah, it kind of just this interest just started. And then in January I was just Googling internships because I needed an internship. I needed to do something that was what I want to do as a career. And it was really hard to find jobs or internships as a crim major that wasn't like working in a prison or shadowing a police officer, for example. And so I just randomly came across Youth for Innocence website. It was so random because they're in America. And like I really, really liked what they were doing and I was so interested and I saw that they said they were interested in people opening a chapter. So I called Bajan multiple times, being like, I really want to start a chapter in Canada. Can we do this? And then I tried to start it, and it was just too much, and it was really hard to organize everything. I didn't have enough knowledge on how to organize a group of people to do this. And then Noella was in class with me, and I started talking to her about it, and we started getting it together. And then Margaret and Emily knew Noella. And then we kind of all started meeting and we realized we were all extremely serious about it and we all kind of have similar values and passions, I think. And so, yeah, we like started it that way and it was really awesome. It's been awesome working with them and starting this together, honestly.
And so you say 37 student volunteers with the group, is
Yes.
that true? So how do you recruit new students? I'm guessing social media has a big role to do with that, or is it just connections, or how do you get the word out?
Margaret?
Maybe Noella or Margaret, yeah.
Yeah. So it started really in group. We know someone who knows someone. That's how the foundation started. And then we created the social media, got the word out, created posters. We put posters around school, everywhere, basically got the word out. And that attracted a lot of students. We also went from class to class, crim classes, introduced the club, and we got members that way too.
We
Yeah.
also do a lot of fundraising or trying to start a lot of fundraising. So we had our first tabling event. We set up a table in front of the student center of our school and it was like right at the center. So as soon as people came in, you can't ignore us. We have posters and we were selling baked treats, we were selling stickers, just anything to kind of like get people to see our table, be interested, and then when they come, we tell them what we're doing. But we find that that's been pretty helpful at getting the word out because a lot of how we get our members is word of mouth. So if someone sees that and they're like, oh, I think someone else would be interested in this, they would tell them. And yeah, we have a next tabling event. So we'll see how many more members we can gather from that.
Excellent. I mean, and I think that touches on like a really important point that you're saying, it spreads by word of mouth. And I find so much of the work that I have done and that I continue to do, it is all kind of grassroots and word of mouth. And it's just tr- getting people to recognize that this is even a problem, right? That it even exists is a huge step. And then usually once you get people's attention, they're interested and they are happy to join, right? So Mia told us about what drew her to the work. What are some of your experiences, that has been your kind of catalyst to draw you to this work?
Well, for me personally, I'm also a criminology student. For as long as I can remember, honestly, I've only been interested in like social justice and politics and law, not in the like I want to know the codes, which is really important, but in like I want to know the stories of people who are often silenced. And our criminology program at TMU is very much centered on the voices of those who are often, silenced and stories of people who are overlooked. So we learned about the Central Park Five case, which is a crazy innocence case of five teenagers who were wrongfully incarcerated. When I found out that that was even like when I first heard about it, I was like, that's crazy that was a reality for a group of young teenage boys, like I couldn't, fathom the fact that that could happen. And I don't know, I just always had this like, I can't believe people sit around and let that happen. So finding a group of people like Mia, Margaret, and Noella who are also passionate, and the rest of the group, that's just been so. I don't know. It's a good feeling to know that people care. So that's I don't have like a personal story, but just learning more about different cases. That's what drives me, I guess, is knowing that there are people who need help and knowing that there are people who can help. Yeah.
And I totally relate to that because I'm the same. I don't have a personal reason why I got into this field. It was just for me, it was the David Milgard case. And once I heard that case, it was like, this can't even be real. Like, how does this even happen in our justice system? And then, like Mia said, it's the rabbit hole that, I went down and I'm still, you know,
Yeah.
finding my way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's never ending. Like once you learn one case, there's like, I don't know, thousands of other people and people that aren't like the stories that aren't marketed. Noella does a great job every Friday with posting different cases that even I genuinely never heard of. So I think, I don't know, just education is so, it's a privilege, but it's just so impactful. Like the more I learn throughout my major, I'm like, wow, there needs to be something done because I'm dumbfounded by how crazy things are in our system.
Absolutely agree.
hmm
And Margaret, what pulls you to this work?
So I'm also a criminology major, but growing up, I wasn't someone who was interested in law or politics. Like, my family was the kind of family that would always be like, you should be a lawyer, but just because, like, I was the argumentative type, not really because of anything. Because I'm more of like an artistic person. I've always had like passions for art. But, I don't know, my gears shifted in grade 12. It's not that I was never like interested in social justice. I definitely was. Like, when I was like 12 years old and calling myself a feminist and telling like students around me like what feminism was. Like I was that kind of like student. But so when I got into criminology, I think like what drives me into this work is learning about cases like the Central Park Five. Like that was like also a crucial case for me. And also I was also very interested in true crime growing up. And I think that the like as bad as it can be, I think it does introduce you to a lot of like true crime cases. It does teach you about things that are happening in the world. And I learned through there was a lot of injustices in the criminal justice system. And I think my learning continues to grow in school. And even being a part of this club, I'm just learning so much more. And I'm so unhappy with how the criminal justice system really is. Just yesterday, we had the privilege to have a presentation by Eric Anderson, who is an exoneree. And it's just like, I learn more again. Like I just keep learning, and it's like it's so great to keep learning and like finding out what I can do or like what we as like a collective can do to change. And it's just knowing that there are people who are passionate about it just as much as I am is like something can happen. Like we can make a change. Yeah.
And that's the thing. All of us have to come together to
Yeah.
be the change we want to see, really,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so many people are just so complacent and accepting of the way things are. And I always feel, and I always joke that it's my job to make people mad and to open their eyes and to get them thinking about these things. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to change anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something about people who are complacent, and I completely agree. It makes me so upset that people could just walk throughout life and not and be neutral to things that actually affect real people. Like they just, oh, that's the way things are. I just like they don't have to be like that. We don't have to, conform to how crazy and wrong the system is.
It's one of those things that sadly, as much as I want there to never be a wrongful conviction, it's a human system run by humans. There's going to be mistakes. We make mistakes every day in our everyday lives. Why would we expect any different from the justice system? The problem is that there's so much hubris and ego that end up getting in the way that we don't admit when there is a mistake. And if we do, it takes, 30 some odd years to have things finally turned right. And that's what needs to change, right? Like, is just knowing that it is possible that things can go wrong and let's work to make it better. It's not a statement against anybody in particular. So, sorry, Noella, what brings you to this work?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a psychology major with a minor in crim. So my interest always lied in the behavioral side of crime. What can someone's childhood, upbringing, behavior tell us about the crime they committed, why they committed that? So that's what brought me into criminology. But through the classes we took, we learned a lot about prison. So my interest started to shift into prison reform, and I found myself writing a lot of essays about prison. And as Mia mentioned, we're in the same class, and she introduced me to this club. Um, and I started the series, The Innocence Files, where I do research on wrongfully convicted cases. And that's when my, I guess, spark ignited because as I was doing this research and I was going through all of these cases, I started to like pinpoint like this one thing that I found in every case, and it was bias. And I found myself using like the stuff I learned in psychology, and applying it to these cases. Like for example, I just did research on Cindy Alley, and basically she called the cops reporting a home invasion, and somehow she ended up in handcuffs and accused of killing her own daughter. And for especially there's a stereotype for Black women that they're like caretakers. They're seen as people who take care of children and anyone else. So when they break that stereotype, people flip out. It's something I learned in my gender issues course. And that bias really ruined her life almost. And she spent a lot of time in prison because of that. So it's just applying the stuff like the intersectionality of psychology and how it's applied in crime really sparked my passion for this club. And just doing all this research, it's a little depressing sometimes seeing all the these people whose lives have been ruined because of human. I guess I can't even call it error. More so, it's always ego coming in the way, police tunnel vision, all of that. So yeah, it just makes me all the more passionate about this club and what it does.
That's amazing. Um, and I love that, you speak to the intersectionality because, one of the things with wrongful convictions is that, we have all the main contributing factors that we know of, but nothing works in isolation, right? Like there's
Uh-huh.
just so much interconnectedness on so many different levels in every case of wrongful conviction. Um, so Mia, you were talking about becoming the director for Youth for Innocence.
For Youth for Innocence Canada, so Pen for Justice is a chapter for Youth for Innocence, which is an American organization. They operate in California, I believe, but it's a remote organization, so they have volunteers from all around the world. And recently, they started looking for chapters. So TMU is actually the only Canadian chapter, and it's the second chapter for Youth for Innocence. The other one is the founders chapter at his university. Um,
Amazing. So what is the goal of that group?
yeah, so right now, Pen for Justice, we're currently trying to find Canadian cases that we can take on and do what we do in the United States, which is we reach out or people reach out to us if they have a claims of innocence and they've exhausted their appeals. And then we'll look through the case. We'll gather all important documents. If we have to call the courts, for example, and request the documents, and that's like another reason why we fundraise. So we have money to pay for those. So we also try and support defendants in that way too. And so our goal is to get at all of their case files, specifically their trial transcripts, and then as a group, we'll catalog all of the files. So if we've got a discovery file with 2,000 pages of evidence in it, then we need a table of contents to know what every single page of that document is. And then we also look at the reporter transcripts of the trial. And it can be like 2,000 pages, and we're summarizing every single page and just making sure we have the important information that's relevant to an attorney and that they would need to understand the case, but also condensing it so that they can look at the case efficiently and in a timely manner. And also, we're able to point out important information. We are very invested in the cases that we're working on. We're so interested. We want to see if this person is innocent. We want to see if we can help prove it. You don't need an attorney to find the evidence that proves you're innocent. They just need to present it. But we can all look at cases. Anybody can look at a case and find mistakes in it. And so, yeah, that's our goal, to do the essentially the same thing, and then work with pro bono attorneys once we've packaged these cases and pitch it to them and present it to them and say, this is a really strong case that we think you should take on. We think this person is innocent. And yeah, and then they can help with a 696 application, which is kind of Canada's route for innocence, whereas in the United States they use hab- I always
Habeas
pronounce it
corpus?
wrong. Yeah, habeas corpus. So it's a little different, but same concept with the packaging of the cases, the summarizing of the trial transcripts, just kind of doing that heavy, long work to like make things easier for attorneys and just counsel, like any team helping. Um, yeah, so right now we're just looking for a case to take on, and that's been a little challenging, but I mean, it's not gonna come easily, and we know that too. Like we have to prove ourselves and prove that people can trust us and like we are dedicated, so that'll take time. But right now we're working on American cases.
So, with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me. And I hope that you'll be able to join me again for another episode where we can talk about some of the work that you've done and what that looks like going forward and what your aspirations are for the group. So, again, thank you all. And I appreciate your time so much. And while today's letter may have piqued your interest, this is only part of the story. There's still so much more to tell. The effects of wrongful convictions are far reaching. They touch us all. I'll write to you again soon as I continue my conversations with those whose lives have been impacted by a wrongful conviction. But until then, I remain wrongfully yours. If you have something that you want to talk about with me, or even if you want to just send me some words of encouragement, you can drop me a line at wrongfullyyourspodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, kellylozon.ca, for more information about me and the kinds of things that I do. And if today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with others, liking and following the podcast on your favorite platforms so you don't miss what comes next. And as always, thank you for listening to Wrongfully Yours, where we believe that telling these stories is the first step towards preventing the next injustice. And until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and keep fighting for justice.